Well, thank you very, very much. Yeah, thank you for the kind introduction, Nate. It is great. It is great to be here among friends, among people who share the same values as I. I very much appreciate this opportunity. I actually have been looking forward to this conversation for some time, and I appreciate what everybody does in this room. Just a little background on our farm. It's a place my grandfather homesteaded. It's an incredible honor that my wife and I have. My grandfather and mother quit farming in the 40s and turned it over to my parents, who quit farming in the late 70s. And about 10 years after we took it over, in fact, it was 87, most everybody in this room knows Bob Quinn. But Quinn and I served on the school board together in Big Sandy for a while. And Quinn was toying around with some organic stuff while we were serving together on the board, and introduced me to a great lady who worked for a company in Michigan, and her name was Ann Sinclair, for those of you that know Ann. And Ann came out the farm and offered us an opportunity to sell some organic grain, some organic durum at the time. And we'd never been too crazy about chemicals. We never did handle them quite right. We'd spray for a week and be sick for a week after we were done. And we'd take the grain to the elevator, and they'd always tell us what's wrong with it, not what was right with it, and always deduct a few cents here and there. And by the time you got done, what you thought was really kind of a neat thing wasn't that neat at all. And so we had an opportunity to make a conversion in the 80s, and so we just took 1/4 section of our then 1,200-acre farm, thinking at the time, we'll just do this. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll go back to what we always did before. And got involved with the local OCIA chapter at that point in time, and made the conversion. And a few years later, we hauled off our one semi-loaded durum that we had raised that year, and we had taken the border strips and I'd hauled them off to General Mills in a little town called Big Sandy that we lived next to. When I hauled those border strips off, it was the same thing as it was with the conventional grain. I walked into the grain elevator to settle up, and they told me everything that was wrong with the grain, and they had deducted so much for this and so much for that and so much for this and so much for that. By the time I got done, I walked out and felt like I had my pockets picked, but that's kind of the way that system works. And then I joined this OCA chapter, and they needed somebody to go to a place outside Philadelphia for an international organic meeting. And hell, I'd never been east of Glasgow, Montana, so I figured this was an opportunity to go see the world, okay? And so we went to this organic meeting, and I can't remember where it was, outside of Philly. But I knew there was a nuclear power plant in the shadow of where we had this meeting. And I walked in, and I'd already hauled off. I'd had the load of durum go out, and Ann Sinclair was there, and she walked up to me and she said, and I quote, because I remember this, "That was the finest durum we'd ever gotten." And I said to myself, we ain't never going back. And we haven't, and we converted the whole farm within a few years after that. And I'm here to tell you that if it wasn't for that decision that my wife and I made in the 80s, we wouldn't be farming. Wouldn't be happening today. We now farm 1,800 acres. But the truth is that the system isn't set up for small agriculture unless you're able to add value with organics. I just don't think it can happen. Now, we'll get into that in a minute, but we are here today to talk about the good things that are going on in agriculture, organic agriculture, and there's a bunch. Organic sales of products up by 11% from 2014. We're touching almost $40 billion of the B. $500 million in organic exports. That's good news. Unfortunately, we're importing 1.3 billion of organic imports, which isn't bad. It's helping the world, but it shows that the market can do a lot more here. Because organics, the demand for it's increasing. We're up to nearly 5% consumed in this country today, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. Does anybody know what they're eating in Europe right now? I mean, that was a big thing we talked about. What percentage are they eating in Europe organically? I can't remember, but it seemed like it was double digits at one time. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But the truth is organics are picking up, and there's new stories all the time, particularly in the areas of vegetables that say if you're eating vegetables, eat organic or don't eat them. I hate to say that, but it's a fact. And so there's a lot of upside out there. And unfortunately, we need policies here in Washington, D.C. and at the state level that support organic agriculture. We made some improvement on the Farm Bill. There's $20 million for ag research and extensive initiative, ways to improve weed management and doing research on organic seeds and upgrading the national database. There's money for reimbursement for cost certification, the cost of certification, providing grants to ensure that the labeling is accurate on the packaging, and we have more work to do, and that work will continue through hopefully my position on the Appropriations Committee, on the Agricultural Subcommittee of Appropriations Committee. So we've got work to do. We all know that here today. We also, there's the issue of GMOs. It should be front and center on your mind. It's front and center on my mind. I can tell you that the people who are so very, very proud of GMOs should be out there leading the charge to have them labeled, in my opinion, if you're that proud of them. If you're that proud of them, you should be leading that charge. I just met with a group of kids from Ennis, Montana and Red Lodge, Montana. And believe it or not, the second question that was asked was, how do you feel about GMOs? And here's how I look at it. We need more research done on it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I can tell you from an organic producer standpoint, this is the thing that will take me out. It is the thing that will take me off the farm. So there's a lot of hills to die on in Washington, D.C. I can tell you unequivocally, and I have said this before, this is the hill I die on. We need to have more research on it. It needs to be labeled. We need to make sure we know what we're getting ourselves into. What I told those kids were, this isn't about more profit for people in production agriculture. This is about who controls our food supply. And I will tell you that if we don't take this and don't take this seriously, and I had the FDA in my office 5 years ago, and they said, and I'm talking to them about genetically modified corn, soy, and wheat, and there's a lot more than that now, and they said, look, it doesn't matter if it looks like a wheat, it's a wheat. Well, that's baloney. And it isn't, and so we've got to change that perception. There are a couple bills out there for labeling. Some of them are voluntary, which quite frankly is a waste of time because they'd already be doing it if they wanted to do it. And there's also a Engineered Food Right to Know Act by Senator Boxer that is not voluntary, that requires labeling. That's a much better way to go. So the GMO thing is a big concern of mine, and I think that you, as business people, as people in production agriculture, and by the way, how many people here, if you're in production agriculture, raise your hand. If you're working on land, that's good. None on this side? Will you guys segregate out? We got Crabtree. No, it's good. So, look, it's an issue that you need to stay diligent on. You need to educate on. I've told many of you the story. The first time I came into caucus, they said, Tester, we want you to talk to the caucus. I had the opportunity to speak to 50 because there was 51 Democrats at that point in time. 50 of what you assume are the most powerful people in the country. And I said, what do I want to talk to these guys about? And so I decided to talk to them about GMOs. And quite frankly, there was 2 people that knew what they were about, and the rest of them really didn't. And a lot of folks think that this thing is better than sliced bread. It may be better than sliced bread, but we don't know because there's not the research out there to back that up. And so we need to get it researched and backed up, and quite frankly, make sure that we know what we're getting ourselves into. Because if we're so smart, why do 20% of the people in this world can't eat wheat because they're allergic to it? The staff of life. If we're that smart, we ought to be asking those kind of questions. The other thing I want to touch on real quick, and then I don't know if you guys want to ask questions. You can if you want. I'd be more than happy to take a few. Is I was on the tractor the other day getting ready to seed some peas, listening to a radio station in Havre, Montana, and they're planting corn now in Montana, GMO corn. They're replacing good, hard, red winter wheat, the best in the world, I might add, and that's not brag, that's fact, raised in Montana, with feed corn, Okay, makes a lot of sense to me, right? And so now we've got this corn being raised there, and the guy who was representing the corn growers was on the radio doing an interview, and he said, we need to have more money for research for corn. True story. So we're gonna take a few bucks from the farmers, and we're gonna get some money, and we're gonna do more money for research on corn. And I was thinking to myself, Jesus, that's one thing. I mean, Monsanto needs a few more bucks to do some more research on corn, right? Okay, and so I was kind of giggling to myself, and then I got to thinking about it. And I do know, and a lot of my friends in this room have been advocating for checkoff dollars for organics. And I would just tell you this, be careful. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. But be careful. And it's not just because I'm involved in production agriculture. I know there's a lot of challenges at the wholesale and retail level too. But make sure if we're going to do this, that this money is spent right. And it's spent to put people back on the farm, not take them off. You can take a look at the world today, and I don't think it's probably any different in states that you live in than it is in Montana, where I can go down the road and go back to that high school that I graduated from damn near 40 years ago now. Maybe it's 41 actually. God, time flies. Where there was 165 kids in that high school, now there's 50. Where it's so bad, where there used to be 5 bars, there's only 2. I mean, things are tough then. Okay? Where you go by farmstead after farmstead where nobody lives anymore, and in fact, those farmsteads are literally starting to disappear. Not only nobody lives there anymore, but they're gone. They're gone. And you have a town that had 1,000 people that now have less than 600. And it goes on and on. And it was a block that was Secretary of Ag in the 70s, 60s, hell, I don't know, when he said, get bigger, get out. Then I remember hearing that as a kid and thinking, God, that's really stupid, get bigger, get out. But I'm telling you, we farm 1,800 acres. It is less than half the size of the average farm in eastern Montana. I have got neighbors, and not just 1 or 2, many neighbors that farm over 30,000 acres, and they couldn't do it. By the way, if they couldn't do it, if they hadn't quadrupled the amount of spray we're putting on the ground from what they did in 1978. Now, I know there's estimates out there that are a lot different. I know there's estimates out there that these are a lot more benign chemicals, and they may be. But the truth is that everything's being done with a sprayer these days. And those acres couldn't be planted. So we have a lot of work to do. And so where I'm getting to with this is if we're going to do checkoff, and you really want to make a difference, it ought to be put towards research. We have got people out there that can do some really, really good work but can't get access to any money. They aren't getting access to public money from us or the states, but they are getting access to people who want to control the food supply, to those monies. And it's really important because I'm telling you, we won't get young people to come back to the farm as long as the university system has a different message. And they do. It's the same message, get big or get out. And quite frankly, that's not what's going to restore rural America. That's not what's going to improve our food security. That's not going to make this country the leader of the free world for generations to come. But quite frankly, if we do research in the right things, for the right reasons, it can have an incredible impact on what happens in this country for our kids and our grandkids and generations after that. With that, I would just say thank you for being here. It's very impressive to sit here and see. I don't know what you got, 150 folks here? I don't know. I don't count very well. I only got 7 fingers, so I started over at 7. But it's impressive to see this group of people, and I just want to thank you for what you do. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of education to do. We've got a lot of work to do. But the truth is that from that first meeting that I did in Philadelphia, when you could have put all those people in a third of this room, all good people. Some of them are here today that were there then, and the industry's growing. And it's growing, I think, in a pretty healthy way. And you've had some help from Washington, D.C. We need to get more help. We need to get a better vision on what we need to do for agriculture in this country to move it forward. With that, thank you all very, very much. And do you have any questions? Maybe it's not legal. Thank you. It's legal? Is it legal to have questions? Is it legal? It must be.
Oh, definitely.
It is? Okay, good.
Questions?
Yeah, here we go. Nobody's got any questions.
Yeah, they do.
No, I'm telling you, this is an easy group. Come on, give it to me. Yes, sir.
We're going to the Hill tomorrow. Which of your colleagues are our stealth champions? They don't really want to come out against GMO or for organic, but they're willing to.
Well, I think there's a number of folks out there that are, if they knew more of the story, would be on our side. And there's a number that have already drank the Kool-Aid on the other side too, by the way, on both parties. So I think I don't think you go in with any predetermined that somebody's out. I think you give them the best. You give them the best. Call it lobbying, sales, whatever you want to do, job that you can about the importance of this. Look, you guys know the statistics. At least it's in Montana, maybe nationwide. The average farmer is 58 years of age. Okay, and this is exactly how old I am. So it's downhill from here for me. And I think that if you look at the organic movement, look at Nate Brown comes up here. I mean, this is allowing young people to come into agriculture in a big way, and it's growing. And if you look at the courses in the colleges like Montana State University, their sustainable ag courses are the ones that are packed, and they got 4 or 5 people in the others. You know, so the land grants need to do a little modifying. But what I would say is when you go walk in, don't predispose anybody. Go in, give them the hard sale, and then also make sure you got their contact information and they have yours. And then you can read their body language. If they start crunching up their shoulders, and you know how it is. Yeah. So I don't leave no stone unturned. Yes, ma'am. Oh my God.
I was just going to ask, what are the policy opportunities that you're excited about right now on the federal level? Is there stuff that can move? Is there anything that can happen?
Have you been watching DC for a while? You used to work here. Come on. I will tell you that from an agricultural standpoint, what are the policy opportunities? Or from an overall standpoint, what are the policy opportunities?
That would advance a sustainable food system, from
We've got work to do if we're going to get labeling done. I think maybe the greatest opportunity might be in trying to get some money for research dollars, but it's got to be, when we took earmarks out of our ability to appropriate with earmarks, but it just has to be earmarked, because if it's not going to go where it needs to go. The biggest issue out there from a sustainable standpoint would probably be the labeling stuff, but the research, I think, is just really, really, really important. Research, we spend a lot of money in healthcare in this country. I mean, a lot of money on healthcare in this country, and nobody ever looks at the food supply. Nobody ever looks at the food supply and ask yourself, are we doing the right thing? What we do, is food medicine, or is it something that makes us sick? And those kind of research projects need to be done, because I'm telling you, it makes a difference. I stand up here telling you this being 100 pounds overweight. I mean, the truth is we need to know. But so, Liz, I would just tell you, there's nothing on the top of the radar. I mean, hell, we're looking at trying to pass a budget and can't get a highway bill passed, for Christ's sakes. I can't believe it. And looking to stop the Iranians from getting the nuclear capacity. So I mean, it's not there. I mean, the time to really do that stuff is during the Farm Bill, and we will continue to put our 2 bits in. But I think you have to tell the story, and you have to tell it over and over and over and over again, and then hopefully some good policies will come out of that.
A couple more?
Yeah. Look at that. I want you to know something. Look at the quarter over there. And what were you just doing, Marnay? What were you just doing? Yeah, she's doing that. Yeah, I want a couple more. Okay? We get a couple more? Yeah.
Senator, thank you so much for being here today and
Yes.
for everything you do for the organic industry.
Actually, it's the other way around. Thank you guys for what you do for the organic industry.
My name is Britt Lundgren, and I'm with Stonyfield, and we've been working hard with a number of the companies in this room to address the shortage in organic grain, which
Yeah.
I'm sure you're aware of.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you have any thoughts for us as an industry on what more we could be doing to encourage more farmers to transition to organic grain or get started.
You know, this is really a difficult situation, and I'll tell you why. Because when we started doing this in the 1980s, and I walked in, and I told you the story, okay? And I was getting paid 1.5 times as much for my durum as I was at the conventional market then. Now it's 4.5 times. I mean, it's not uncommon to get $22 a bushel out of winter wheat that's selling for $5 right now. And you're saying to yourself, why aren't these guys converting? And I'll tell you why I think it is. And I don't want to put it on the land grants, but I think they have not given organics any credit. And farmers follow the land grant institution's research. And I really believe that. And I think that if we're able to get those folks to start doing some research and doing some, I told you, I would not be on the farm if it wasn't for organics. We would have gone broke. I would not be a senator if it wasn't for organics. Because I would have been out working for a living. I wouldn't have been farming. You're supposed to laugh at that. Because we all know that farming is not work, right? But I'm telling you, I think it all has to do with research, and it all has to do with making things pencil out. I had a guy come up to me. I just borrowed a roller from my neighbor, and he walked up to me and said, "Hey, because I just shipped out some winter wheat to Kellogg's. Kashi here today? Are they here? They're not? Well, I'm going to give them hell when they come in my office." But the guy says to me, he says, you know, what you getting? And I didn't sell my winter wheat for $20 a bushel because I'm not that good of a marketer, okay? But he says, yeah. I said, we've got a neighbor that sold it for $20 a bushel. And I said, that's great. How come you haven't converted? He said, I just can't do that. Well, the reason he can't do that is because he doesn't have the tools to do that. And if you have the tools, you'll make the conversion. If you don't have the tools, you will not make the conversion. And quite frankly, those tools come from experiment stations and university systems and your neighbors. And, you know, and it also doesn't allow you to farm 30,000 acres. Okay, so if you want to be a big farmer and sit on a sprayer and hire custom cutters to come in and cut your crop, which is not where I'm at, by the way. I like to sit on a tractor. Drives my kids crazy. 14, 15 hours. Give me another one. I love it. Okay? Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. But you got to have tools, and I think that's the key for conversion. You've got to have the tools, and those tools come from the university system. Yes, sir. I think I know you.
Senator, how are you?
I'm good.
And thanks again for all you do for us.
Yeah.
Today, we heard again from the Secretary of Agriculture about coexistence, therefore existing organic farming and GMOs. Where are we coming from with this idea, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I can tell you where you're coming from with that idea. Conventional can coexist with organic. The problem is organic can't coexist with conventional. And that's where the problem is. And the folks that are doing that chirping, it doesn't put them out of business, doesn't get them off the farm. They're saying it can coexist, when in fact, it's not how Mother Nature works. I mean, cross-pollination is something that happens. Can't stop it. It's the way it works. And if you get that cross-pollination going on, you got a problem if you're an organic producer. And the problem is, unlike the chemicals, if it drifts over on your land, it's their fault. Those rules aren't there for cross-pollination. So it becomes our problem. And it's a problem that will put us out of business. In fact, it's a problem, if you think about it, can literally take your farm, because I'm signing things all the time that says that there's no GMOs in my wheat. And there's no GMO wheat in Montana, I think. So I can sign those. But I'm telling you, with the reintroduction of GMO, if GMO'd wheat ever gets introduced in Montana, I'm in the same boat corn's in. I can't, there's no way I can sign a document assuring anybody that there's not cross-pollination. It's the line that agribusiness gives that is incorrect, and they know it's incorrect. ADM knows it's incorrect. Bunge knows it's incorrect. They all know it's incorrect. Cargill knows it's incorrect. And Monsanto knows it's incorrect. But, you know, they've sold this thing about feeding the world, and the fact is I've had more production on my farm since I made organic conversion than we ever did when we were farming it conventionally.
Senator Tester, Matthew Dillon from Cliff Bar and Company. I can't agree with you more on the land-grant universities, both the importance of them serving organic needs and that we're underserved.
Yep.
Many of us here in the room, Cliff Bar and Company, along with Organic Valley, Earthbound, Annie's, have been investing in graduate fellowships
Yeah.
at our land-grant universities. We currently
Thank
have
you.
14.
Thanks.
It's we're grateful to be able to do it.
Yeah.
My question to you is this. We hear from the land-grant universities that it's not that they don't want to do organic research, it's that because of the Bayh-Dole Act and changes to hatch funding and formula funding for universities, they are now required to do research that pays royalties. The Bayh-Dole Act is also known as the University and Small Patent Act, so these universities need to fund their research programs through royalties and through patents. Bayh-Dole has been around for almost 30 years, and it's beyond time that we asked GAO and others to look into Bayh-Dole to see if it's been effective. And so I really want to encourage you to work with some of your colleagues to challenge Bayh-Dole, because it is what is hamstringing these universities in a major way.
Well, or it's an excuse. You've got to ask yourself, why do they have to fund themselves with money from patents that they're doing? I'll tell you why. We're not putting anybody into research. And I don't care if it's cancer research, or if it's energy research, or if it's agricultural research. And that's why. The truth is that if we're going to have research for public good, it has to come from public money. If I'm going to cut these guys a check out of my pocket, I'm damn well going to want that research to make sure that that check comes back to that pocket. And so that's the problem. And that's why when we talk about user fees, or whatever you want to call them, if it's really focused on those kind of things, it can help get more people into agriculture. It can help, quite frankly, it can help drive those prices down because there's more production, which is a bad thing if you're a guy in production agriculture, but it's something that needs to happen. I want to stay in business. I want my kids to be able to do this. Well, it won't be my kids, it'll be my grandkids. But the truth is that's the problem. But let me put it this way to you. I will work any way we can to make sure we get ag research for organics. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I will do that. With that, I just want to say thank you all very, very much for what you do.